There we go. I see a couple of note takers. Sorry, people, I'm gonna send them out. But welcome to one more session of Smartlead's Office Hours. My name is Akash, your customer success manager here at Smartlead. For those of y'all who've been here already, you know the drill. Drop on the comments. You see a chat icon at the center bottom of your screen. Click on that, drop on the comments where you are from, the temperature in your city, and also let us know if you're an agency, a freelancer, or if you're a part of a SaaS company. We'd love to know, right? Again, chat icon, center bottom of your screen. Keep dropping it. Todd is here. Good to see you, mate. Keep it coming. PH, not sure. SaaS, right. NYC, Nairobi, SaaS. Welcome, Sheila. Welcome, Chris. New York. Welcome, Andre. Anju from India. Welcome. Keep it coming, people. But the real reason why we are here, the topic for today's session, most teams stop at booking the call, right? So when it comes to cold emails, we talk to a lot of people. They book meetings and they stop right there. The primary goal is just to book meetings. But actually, the real work starts after that. So in this session, we'll know how to move cold leads through your sales process with better pre-call preps, first call strategy, and plays that actually lead to second calls and for your follow-up calls. If you're tired of no-shows, if you're tired of flat calls or ghosting, this session is for you, right? So Blake is here. Blake is going to break down the overlooked sales moments between cold outreach and closed deals, including pre-call education, offer farming, first call tactics, and strategies that set up a strong second call. And about Blake Johnston is the founder of OutboundView and Lead Conversion, two firms that have helped over 200 companies optimize lead gen and build stronger sales processes. Blake specializes in bringing outbound activity with actual pipeline movement and brings deep practical insight into what separates good sales motions from great ones. Blake, over to you, sir. A quick round of introduction, and the floor is yours.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate the time. And yeah, so we're going to try and make this just extremely tactical and get into exactly what we see, what clients do that convert leads in a different way than those who just have a bunch of meetings, but they don't actually turn into revenue.
Right.
And then we'll open it up for Q&A. And yeah, to give a little bit of background on us, we're a outsourced SDR agency. We have about 30 employees. We've been in business for 8 years. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of different sales processes, and we built cold lead conversion purely because of the gap that we see of people following consistent sales processes that can take leads from like they don't know you at all to their booked revenue. And so a lot of the things that we talk about are very, very specific to sales process, to understanding what's going in the process, and then obviously converting these leads over.
Right.
Um, Akash, I'll jump in whenever you're ready. Anything else that you want to mention up front?
No, not at all, Blake. The floor is yours. I'll keep a look for the questions. So, folks, if you have any questions, drop it in the comments. I'll pick them up for you and I'll ask them to Blake once he's covered, right? So, Blake, over to you, sir. The floor is yours.
Perfect. And are you seeing my screen okay, the
Yep.
converting cold leads portion?
Great,
Okay,
clear.
awesome. So we'll jump in. Like I said, I'm going to try and make this as tactical as possible. So some of the things that we're going to cover are key metrics, how we reduce no-shows, what like a good versus bad sales process looks like. Overall, we have this methodology, which I'll dive into a little bit further, and I'd love to kind of have everybody have this in their mind is the goal is to get the prospect to a second call, unless you do a one call close, of course. But basically, everything in your sales process, from the second that that meeting is set to the end of the first call, the goal is to get them on a second call. And so we'll talk about some of the ways to do that. As a part of the sales consulting that we do, we use AI to analyze how calls are going. And so there's a few things that we'll talk about just very specific to how you can use AI and how you can audit your sales process, how you can build custom GPTs very easily as well. So those are some of the topics we'll cover, and then feel free to drop notes in the Q&A. one of the things I just want to say before jumping in is working on your sales process can be boring, right? Like people don't get excited about really analyzing what is going on and why you're winning deals and why you're not. People get very excited about top of funnel, booking more meetings, building new lists, making cold calls, sending emails. Like that's the exciting part. Just you have to change your frame a little bit of what if I didn't have more leads, or what if I'm capped with this many leads? Like if you put the same amount of time into your sales process as you do top of funnel, you will
Right.
see a wildly different revenue number next year versus this year. It's just people don't want to actually dedicate the time and spend the time. So it's really important. As I go through this, I'll just, some of the topics, you're going to see things that you're immediately going to want to change. We'll cover topics that it'll be obvious that you have gaps in your process. And then the other thing that I want to mention is obviously, I know in webinars, people have to jump off. You have meetings, there's other things going on. So, of course, take notes. We'll be sending the recording, but we have an e-course at coldleadconversion.com that is completely free. It covers all the topics. Actually, it covers them in a little bit of a better way. Go there, sign up. It's coldleadconversion.com. And it's just like 3 to 5 minute videos on all the kind of key topics that we're going to dive into here. So, all right, let's jump in. Akash, anything from you? Good to continue on.
Yep. Please go ahead, Jake. Blake.
Perfect. Okay. So the first thing to remember, we call it cold lead conversion, but that's typically leads that are coming in from cold email, cold calling, but even your inbound and referral leads, you have to remember these people do not know you, right? A lot of times when they're booking a meeting, it happened a week ago, they have 20 other meetings, like you need to think that this prospect doesn't know me and I need to educate them about us, not just on that first call, but before the first call, during the first call, after the first call. Like they don't know you. A lot of the things that we see, and I know there have been tons of office hours around creating offers and those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times when we review sales calls, the prospect has no idea why they're on the call. They have no idea what they're going to get on the call. And so what happens is you're putting way too much pressure on your salespeople to have this amazing 30-minute call that they're just going to wow the prospect and move them along. So if you ever hear when you get into a first call, a prospect say, I don't even remember why I booked this, or remind me again what you do, that is a problem, right? I would almost guarantee that any prospect that starts with that, the likelihood of them closing is so much lower than if they know why they're there, if they know about you, if they have some case studies, and then you can kind of continue the sales process. So there's just a reality that your prospects don't know you, they're busy, they don't care, they've set up some time, which is great, but that is putting way too much pressure on the actual salesperson to have like the most amazing meeting ever.
Right.
And the second thing I would say here is, when we get into sales consulting, like projects, it is almost never the PowerPoint. It's not the messaging. It's not the pricing. Like these are not typically the problem. Almost every client that comes to us has competitive pricing. They have capable enough salespeople. The sales team's willingness and ability to follow a well-defined sales process and figure out where the leaks are in the sales process is almost always the issue, right? Like when we get into sales consulting, we're not like diving into their PowerPoints and saying like, "Oh, you're not asking the right questions," and all of these things. It's usually like the prospects have no idea why they're there. There's no strong offer. You're not closing them to a second call, and you don't have like defined places where you're sending prospects based on where they're at in the sales process. So the good thing is these things can all be fixed quite quickly. And so, thinking about the process and understanding and auditing exactly what's going on, is absolutely critical. And so one just quick question, because I like to gauge how much time we're actually spending on auditing our sales process. So Like take a step back. In the last month, how much time have you spent improving your sales process versus trying to generate more leads? And generating more leads is very, very critical. So I'm not downplaying that, but think about that. And if you could throw it in the comments, would love to know how often are we doing things like reviewing calls, adjusting sales processes, making new like middle and bottom of funnel like assets. So feel free to kind of throw it in. Would love to hear how much time the team or your teams are actually spending on this.
Right. And we have a message from Pankaj. They spend around 4 to 5 hours on this. Like,
That's awesome. So one of the things, so we're a outbound SDR agency. You'll be shocked. Every prospect that comes to us tells us that they have a 30 to 40% close rate. Like everybody says this. And number one, it's not true, right? Like what they have is a 30 to 40% close rate once it gets into the CRM and it's a highly qualified lead. What they don't have is a good process from meeting set through first meeting. There's just tons of leakage in there, and I'll get into that here in a second around pre-call education, as well as offers and how to run a first call. Any other feedback or any other comments, Akash, on just how much time teams are spending here?
right. No feedback on that, Blake, but there's one
Okay.
feedback. So Sheila says it would really be great if you can also emphasize, especially from an SDR perspective, the reality of cold prospects.
Yeah, yep. We'll talk about here in a second. So
Awesome.
perfect. Well, let's continue on. So Um, we've looked at hundreds of sales processes. Our clients don't stick around if they can't get an ROI. And the two main reasons for bad sales process are very easy. Salesperson inconsistency. So struggling to do the same thing on call and do all the critical things, and I'll get into what those are, and a lack of leadership oversight. So sales manager, CEO, head of marketing, whoever is in charge of auditing what is going on during the sales process is not diligent enough. So for example, if we see a team that has 5 account executives, this is almost always the case. They're all sending something different pre-meeting. Some are sending a lot, some are sending nothing. They're all doing something the day before to confirm the meetings. Some are connecting on LinkedIn, some aren't. Like what's happening pre-meeting is all over the board, and there's no consistency. And then when we start to audit call reviews, so how does that first call go? How they start the call is different. The questions that they ask are different. How they end the call are different. And so what you have is no consistency, so you can't really figure out like what exactly is going on in the sales process and what is working and what isn't. So having oversight, and I know, well, you mentioned it, Akash, a bunch of recorders join.
Mhm.
Like it's great to have a recorder join your calls. It's useless if you don't spend the time to actually review the data and analyze it and have that built into your week from a QA perspective.
Absolutely.
Um, So you can get as complex as you want around what to track in your sales process. These are 4 metrics that, we would recommend absolutely everybody has. And just get a spreadsheet. Ideally you want to build into your CRM. There's lots of things to do. But the things that you want to track to see where you may be losing people, number one is the number of calls set, right? So that's an easy one. The number of meetings you have on the books and the channel that it's coming from, your show up rate. So, what percentage of those people actually show up for the call? The next one is your conversion from a first call to a second call. This is one that we almost never see tracked, but it's absolutely critical. It'll tell you, are you targeting the right people, the right companies? It'll tell you how your account executives are doing, and it'll tell you like if you get people to a second call, everything else starts to work there. So driving to a second call is absolutely critical. And then obviously your close rate. Now, if you have a 6-month sales cycle, there are probably a lot of other steps in there, but at a minimum, grab a spreadsheet, look at your last month, and figure out your percentages here. And I have a little sheet that we'll go through here in a second that shows the wild difference. Like if you increase show rate by 20%, it has massive impact. Same thing with first to second call. Like you can double your revenue by increasing your first to second call percentage by 20%, right? So all of these things matter a lot. You can just get a spreadsheet, track them, look at your last month and track them moving forward. The reason you have to track these is when you see gaps here, there are very specific things that you'll do when you're having show up rate issues, right? Or
Right.
first to second call issues, whereas that's not always the case. Or you don't know when you're not tracking it. So quickly, must-haves, these are like in our opinion, from seeing hundreds of these sales cycles, these are the things you have to have, right? You have to have call recording software, right? It's get Fireflies, get Fathom, they're $20 a month. If you are not recording calls, like you're out of your mind, right? Like there is just so much opportunity there, and we'll get into that. You have to dedicate time to reviewing the calls. So just getting the automated report after, it starts to get tedious. If you aren't having conversations with your sales reps about what is in those QA reviews and doing coaching on it, then you're kind of wasting an opportunity. You need a documented sales process. So guess what percentage of our new clients come to us with a documented sales process? Like zero. None of them. It's like, we do this and then we usually do that. And it's like, just spend a day with the sales team and write it down. Get everybody on the same page for what you're trying to do because half of auditing a sales process is setting the expectations. Look, we do this pre-call. We do this during the first call. We close at the end of the first call, etc. So if it's not documented, and the team doesn't know about it, then it's very tough to hold people accountable. Pre-call education, I'm going to go into a whole thing here. We recommend 5 to 7 touch points between meeting set and meeting held. So the more you can educate people, everybody knows the sales call when they show up and they're like, hey, I saw those couple case studies that you did and I read this and I did that. Like, tell me more. That call almost always goes to a second call. The
Right.
call, like I mentioned before, where they have no idea how they got there or why they're there, like, good luck. Good luck converting that over. First call execution, obviously you need to have good first calls. And then offers, we'll talk about different offers. There's the offer to get them on the first call, but there's offers to get them to a second call or offers to get them in a nurture sequence. And then everything needs to drive towards a second call. So I'll just pause there and see if anybody has any kind of questions or anything Akash you want to make sure that I cover.
Nope. All good. Blake, I don't see any new questions on the chat as well. So I think we're good to go.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about pre-call education. So most like B2B companies don't do this, right? They don't do this at all. And so you'll notice that, for example, if you sign up for an info product or you sign up for products that are a little bit less complex B2B,
Mhm.
they have awesome pre-call education and nurture sequences. They do that for a reason. And so our clients that implement pre-call education and framing immediately increase everything. They increase show rates. They increase that conversion from first to second call. They end up increasing close rates. And it's purely because you're getting more prospects to show up. You have a better call. They know more about you and they're ready. So we recommend, somewhere between 4 and 7 touch points. Now, just to be clear, these are coming from different people. So you can't have a salesperson send 6 emails before a call. They'll think you're crazy, right? Like that you'll drive them nuts. Um, but marketing can get away with things that salespeople can't. So, for example, what we recommend is most companies we know are booking off of a Calendly or a similar type of tool. When you book off of that Calendly, fire marketing automation. So the closer to the meeting should be where more of the content comes. So if I book today, I'd like to see 2 to 3 messages in the next 48 hours, case studies, calculators, content, like just any information that gives them more, reinforce your offer and what they're going to get out of the first call.
Mhm.
But so immediately marketing automation starts to fire. We can get in. There's some complexity there, kind of how you do it, but think marketing, messaging, whatever. Then salespeople need to do very specific things. Connect with everybody on LinkedIn, number one. Send an email immediately once the meeting is booked. What are we doing? A little bit about them, something custom. Oh, we've worked with customers like you. Hey, during the first call, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then we recommend sending an agenda the day before or a connect or just reinforcing. But so that ends up being 3 to 4 touch points from marketing, 1 to 2 from sales, and then use your Calendly reminders just to remind them to show up. Don't use
Okay.
those for content. Um, and so the way that you can decide what to use in pre-call education goes back to those call recordings. Listen to all your call recordings. Ask what questions they're commonly asking. Cover FAQs. Like most of us, we answer the same 5 questions at the beginning of every call, and it doesn't help us get to the client's problems and all of those types of things. So rather than doing that, get some of those FAQs out of the way, answer some of the questions that they know, or that you know that they're going to ask, like ask them before. I can't state enough how much this pre-call education matters. And we see wild inconsistencies across sales teams, and we almost never see kind of marketing automation at all. They may get into your weekly or monthly newsletters, but like nobody is doing custom pre-call education.
Right. And
I'll
have you
pause there to see if anyone has any questions.
So one question from my end, Blake, is have you seen any specific time windows for the alerts or the note? For example, let's say I have a call booked, I fire an email notifying the user that there's a call scheduled for a reminder email, right? Have you seen a specific time window as when it's working the best? So is it 10 minutes before the call? Is it 30 minutes before the call? Do you have a recommendation for that, or does it really matter?
We recommend the day before confirming over the phone
Mhm.
or via email about the meeting, or morning of is fine. So that, like, as far as the reminders, I mean, I have mine where it's an hour and it's 24 hours before, but
Right.
no, not really. Like, I don't know that the 10 minutes versus an hour. I just, I see people trying to build education into Calendly reminders, and I would not do that. Use
Right.
your Calendly reminder
Right.
just for, hey, the meeting's coming up in X amount of time.
Absolutely. And picking one question from the chat, Blake, any specific call recording software you'd recommend or how to go about using them to improve sales process?
So in our consulting, we almost always recommend Fathom or Fireflies, and we mostly do it because they have good APIs. I think Fathom is a little better set up for sales, and they're all the same prices. They're like $20.
Right.
So check out Fathom or Fireflies. They're both easy. They're both great.
Got it. Next question for you. Would you recommend to set calendar based on they can book a slot after 24 hours of current time so that we can fire that marketing automation? Or do you recommend having an option that they can book on the same day? What would you recommend?
If you can get them to book the same day, ignore your everything marketing. I mean, the faster the meeting, the better. When I talked about complexity, I mean, there are ways to configure your marketing automation that will show the time that the meeting is and then kind of define when they go out. But if somebody wants to book today and you have availability, take the call today. Don't worry about the education.
Got it. What marketing automation tools would you recommend?
We hear HubSpot all the time. It doesn't matter. They all have this level of access. They all connect with Zapier. It doesn't matter. HubSpot is the most common one that we hear though.
Got it. And would you have a recommendation for a phone software dialer? I'm looking into, okay, let me read this question for you. A phone software recommendation. I'm looking into where both SDR and sales teams need phone to follow up. So I think she's referring to a power dialer. Would you recommend
Yeah.
a specific tool for that?
Yeah, they're different tools. So most dialers will have call recording as a part of it in certain states.
Mhm.
Um, so there's lots of good dialers out there. And almost all of them have call recording. When it comes to recording sales calls or customer service calls or those types of things, the Fireflies, the Fathom
And
is
yeah,
what I would use.
understood, Blake. That's all we had. Over to you, sir.
Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going here. So this is this is probably outside of, so there's pre-call education, which very small percentage of people are doing. There's offers, which I bet this group is much better at offers than most are, just because of all the education, that you guys do. And then there's just that core, how do you run an effective first call? And so once again, most of the clients that come to us have very, very capable salespeople. It's all about the being diligent about how you're kind of running the first call and what you're doing. So real quick, I'll walk through this, and there's a couple major pain points that we see. So number one is that pre-call education. Are they coming in knowing anything about your business, why they're there, those types of things. The second is build rapport. Um, it's there's no like specific way. Usually salespeople are good at this or they're not, but it's something that can be practiced. But understanding where they're from, doing a little bit of research, all those things like build some initial rapport. The second is confirming what they know about you, right?
Right.
So if you've done a bunch of pre-call education, we just ask the question, hey, do you have a chance to check out any of the case studies or videos or anything that we sent? Like, what do you know about us? Because it'll save you a lot of time of just covering things they already know, or they may say very specific things that they don't know, and it'll kind of change where you go. There's the main core part of your presentation. So my assumption is you know how to pitch your product, you know your differentiators, you know the questions to ask. The thing that I would say though is most of the time when we listen to sales recordings, the salespeople are all doing this in different ways. So, are there core questions that you have to ask? What are the most common questions? It's very easy to upload 20 call transcripts to ChatGPT and say, what are the most common questions that are being asked? What keeps coming up? When do the prospects seem the most engaged? Like all of these things. So, we assume that you know how to do this and differentiators in messaging. And then this is the most common one that we see. So once again, everything that we're doing in that first call is driving towards a second call. So at the beginning of the conversation, we actually say, look, if this call goes well, our next step is a whiteboard session, client review, whatever it is. We say that at the beginning so that we can close on it at the end. But what we find is, and this comes from reviewing call scripts, salespeople are not leaving enough time at the end of the call
Mhm.
to actually see what the objections are.
Right.
So what I mean is they run their presentation all the way up to like 2 minutes left. It's 9:28. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I need to close on the next thing. And they go to close, or the call ends with, like, oh, great, I'll just send you a bunch of information. If your calls end with, okay, I'm going to send you a bunch of information, the chance of ghosting is just through the roof. So you need to stop presenting at a minimum with 5 minutes at the end.
Right.
That gives you time to ask them if they have any questions and then close on the second call. Hey, I mentioned at the beginning of the call, our next step is X, right? Does that seem like a good fit? And then just be quiet. Don't say anything. If it's not a good fit, they're going to start giving you the reasons why. No, the timing isn't right. I have to get people involved, whatever, so all the objections will come up there. So this doesn't mean you're going to close everybody, but you get to talk with them about the objections for the last 5 to 7 minutes. What happens is if you don't get those objections out and you don't hear them after you send all the information, they just stop responding. They're like, I'm not going to set up another call. I'm just going to ghost, whatever. So get the objections out of the way so that you can talk about them. So this is a big one. How much time are you leaving at the end to actually close? And everybody should know this, but like at the end of a first call, you need a defined next step, right?
Right.
I'm going to send you information is not a defined next step. It's, hey, I'm going to send you a bunch of information. Can we put time on the calendar next Thursday to review all of that? Or I'll put pricing together, but typically it's a little complex. So we set up a call to go through the pricing so you fully understand, can we book that? So whatever your second call is, that's where you need to allow the time to actually handle the rebuttals. If you have a ghosting issue, I bet this is one of the problems. Either you're not closing, you're not driving to a second offer, or you're not leaving enough time to actually figure out what the issues are.
Understood.
And then the last thing I'll mention, um, on driving to a second call, I'll talk about this a little bit in offers here in a second, but what you name that second call, how you brand it, we see a lot of software companies that they call their second call, hey, you want to jump on a demo? Like nobody wants to just jump on a demo with a vendor, right? Like we're going to walk you through X, Y, or Z, or we're going to do a whiteboard session, or we're going to do these things that feel more interactive and they get something out of it. So how you brand and name that second call matters quite a bit. And we find that when we audit calls, there's no consistency in what salespeople call these second
Mhm.
offers. A lot of times, not even a consistency on what a good next step is. The salespeople are winging it based on how the call goes, and like that's never a good idea. So I'll pause there. Any questions on how to run an effective call?
Yeah. So, in terms of the content of what you say, Blake, would you prefer to ask direct, open-ended questions?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, this kind of gets into this engage in presentation portion where, you have 5 minutes up front, you need 5 minutes in the back, you got 10 to 20 minutes to ask the right questions, understand where they're at, understand timing and like where this is going and, why now. So, yeah, open-ended is always better. But I like we see like salespeople getting on and just peppering with question after question after question, and they have a bunch of information at the end. The prospect literally has no reason to continue the conversation. So you have to be careful that, like, yes, we're asking questions, but like if you're spending 18 of your 20 minutes asking questions, like that's a problem if they don't know what your value prop is or like why they should continue the conversation.
Understood. And there's one more question, Blake, but it's not related to calls. So, would you still want to hear it?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So, how do you re-engage marketing leads who probably just filled out a form to get a recording, while 90% of them read your email with no response?
Yeah. It depends on the type of content and what they're filling out, right? That the amount of, we see a lot of like forms, but that just throws them into a newsletter. So like, is it taking them down marketing automation? Do you want salespeople to come in? Like, so there's nothing secretive about it. It's pick up the phone, it's send emails from salespeople, it's connect with them on LinkedIn. But a lot of times, you're giving a free giveaway for something that doesn't show a lot of intent to buying your product. So, like, it doesn't make sense to jump on a 30-minute call when they downloaded a white paper that doesn't really show intent. And so, if there's intent, that this means that they're probably like interested in buying or looking, then push meetings. If there is an intent, then like keep educating, and they'll come around when there's time. So just throwing everybody into a call sequence on every marketing qualified lead is dumb.
Understood. But that's all the question we had. I think we have two more related to cold emails. I'm answering them for the chat. So, we can go ahead, Blake. We're all good.
Yeah. Yep. I'm just going to try and hit on a couple things quick here because I want to leave enough time. And then don't forget all of this content because it's just tough to cover everything is in coldleadconversion.com. Just provide your info and you'll get free access to the training. Um, so uh, I'm just going to hit offers real quick. Because I know you guys do a lot of education on offers. So, you know, there's different types of offers, like I mentioned, though. There's first call offers, why somebody would join a first call. So that's 30 minutes with somebody they don't know at a company they probably don't know. Like, what's the reason to get them on that call? And so it needs to be tangible, it needs to seem like it's worth something. and this will have a bigger effect on your meeting set and hold rates. But so there's your first meeting offer. Um, there are these second call offers, right? So you have your first meeting, and at the end of that, we're trying to close them to the second call. It has to be as compelling as the first call. So like we do cold calling for clients.
Right.
Our second offer is, hey, let's set up a whiteboard session. Let's dive into the campaigns. We'll show you how we build campaigns, right? We'll show you the data behind how we build. We'll show you the customization. We'll show you everything before you have to make a decision. Like it's pretty obvious what they're getting out of a second call. And if they don't want to do that second call, we know that they're not like ready to move forward. So you need a strong reason why they're going to join the second call. And then the third is a like nurture offer. So not everybody's going to be in active buying mode. If they're like, "Hey, we have no budget, but like I want to do this next year." Okay, what are you going to do to stay in front of them? Right? Do you put them in your marketing automation automatically? Do you have a quarterly check-in? So the offer to them is, hey, I know the timing isn't right now, but we put awesome education out on this. Can I sign you up for our nurture list, or we do monthly webinars, or we do these things? So all these things are critical. So most people, well, I'm guessing most people here know about first offers, but don't forget about your second offers and your nurture offers as well.
100%.
All right. Um, I just have a quick case study I want to walk through, and I'm sure there are a lot of agencies on here. And it's easy to say that there are like bad leads. So we started working with a client that had an internal SDR team. Before they started working with us, they booked 50 meetings, 20 no-show, 30 were held. Of those 30, five went to a second call. So that means 10% of the meetings booked went to a second call. They're kind of telling us like we have bad leads, but when we look at the leads list, it's all their core personas. Like it's the people that buy training and development. And so like as we dove in a little bit further, they had no pre-call education.
Mhm.
They were doing what I just referenced. The reps were very senior, asking a bunch of questions, but there was no clear offer, no clear second step in most of them. One
Right.
of the reps was really good at it. And then they were recording calls, but nobody was reviewing them and what that looked like. And so like in a week, we came in, we set them up with pre-call education. We built two different offers. So we built an offer, hey, can we give you a briefing on how AI is changing leadership development? And then we gave them a second offer, which is we do a program audit to see where AI could have the biggest opportunities to take over your current leadership processes. They
Right.
ran this out, same exact leads, same list, same people, 30 meetings, 26 are held, 13-second calls, $100,000 in closed revenue. And they did not change very much, right? Like they kept doing the same thing, different education, leads coming in different, two different offers, started reviewing what was going on, and all of this happened really, really quickly. So anytime you hear from clients, right? We have bad leads. Anytime that you're hearing that you have bad leads, but your personas are correct, you have the right job titles, you probably have a sales process or an education issue.
Right.
All right.
Perfect. And can you also go a bit more in depth about the second call offers, Blake? Is it possible to give few more examples, preferably
For
what
sure.
could be an offer, etc.? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So client case studies are a great one. So, on this next call, we'll walk you through exactly how we took a client from here to here and all the steps. Um, calculators, like ROI sessions, anything client reviews, whiteboard sessions, all of those types of things
Right.
you typically, number one, like if they're going to a second call, they want to spend more time with you. That second call is really valuable if they start inviting other people from their team to that call as well.
True.
And so you have to think like after that second call, what can they walk away that gives them more education on you, your product, your customers, those types of things. So how you brand that second call matters quite a bit. But most people, it's, for SaaS companies, it's some version of a demo, hopefully with a little bit of a better name. For service companies, it's usually getting into the weeds on, you know, like recruiting agencies. It's like, let's build the job postings together, right?
Right.
So it's getting them to buy in, anything to get them to buy in to spend more time and start solutioning on how you would actually work together.
Understood. Makes sense. Thank you for that, Blake.
Awesome.
And
All right.
we got this question earlier. So, would you be able to drop this document on the chat, or is it a link that people can access to, or is it the free cold email course that you spoke about, Blake?
It's all at this coldleadconversion.com. So like you literally kind of sign up and a lot of these decks that I'm going through are there. So there's 25 different modules. So yeah, it's all in the course.
Understood. I've dropped it on the chat for the people. Thank you, Blake.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So just I want to I'm going to hit on two things really fast, and then we'll stop and we'll open it up here for questions. So just a quick recap: pre-meeting foundation, first call structure, like I mentioned, leave enough time at the end, build rapport, do your thing. The keys: have call recording, QA call recording, all those types of things. And then there's what happens between your first call and second call. So I didn't talk about this much, but you also need education here. You
Mhm.
book that second call. Don't just stop for meeting set on the second call. More education, more case studies, more touch points.
Understood.
And then you run your second call. And I can't reiterate enough what most bad sales processes look like. It's meeting set, nothing happened, Zoom auto reminders, uh, no clear definition at the end of where we're going, and then like salespeople complaining about bad leads, right? Like we hear it over and over and over, and it's just like, look, you have meetings with 50 of your core personas. If you guys can't turn this into revenue, like you have a sales problem. So the whole like you go through the process and then you send four emails to try and get them to show back up like something got broken in the sales process. And then I mentioned the difference of ROI. So in an example of like we're booking 120 meetings, the difference is between increasing no-shows or increasing the percentage of people that go to first to second meeting or like hundreds of thousands of dollars for most clients, right? So if you can reduce no-shows, by 20%, all of a sudden you double revenue. So one just key here is focus on those no-shows and first to second call conversion. And then the last thing I'll leave you guys with is two things. Seniority matters, right? So the ability to follow a sales process, like we hear all the time, should our SDRs be running the first calls? No, not typically. If you have cold leads, make sure your most senior people can close them before you open them up to the entire team,
Right.
right? So, all of this will come up in auditing of calls, but like seniority matters a lot, and then use AI, right? Like if once you start recording calls, upload them all. Like this is a big part of the sales consulting that we provide is coming in and operationalizing the use of AI and call recording tools. So make sure you're using AI. We have a whole module on it, but
Mhm.
it's very easy to use and get figure out where the problems are in your sales process.
Understood. Understood. And one question from the chat, Blake. In scenarios where you have an SDR team hand over to the sales team, what can you advise around the first and the second call? Bearing in mind the SDR team handover notes about the prospect to the sales team, and 90% of them are qualified ICPs, but conversions are way slow.
Yeah. So I check that pre-call education. So from the second it's set to held, map out who's doing what and what touch points there are. So if you're not educating them between them and you don't know the salespeople, there's a lot of scenarios where you have five salespeople. I guarantee they're all doing something different. You'll notice that no-show rates are worse with some account executives than others.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the pre-call education, and it could be those touch points, but they're the basics: custom email, connect on LinkedIn, and educate beforehand. And obviously, yeah, you need to let the account executives know who's showing up and why and what that looks like.
Understood. Can you give top three golden nuggets that are a must in your first call, apart from building a report?
Yeah. So, number one is at the beginning, letting the prospect know where they're going. So, hey, if this call goes well, here's where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the second, I'd say, is probably that end of call. How you close the call. Did you leave enough time? And did you drive towards a specific second call? Um, and third, I don't know. I mean, it does come down to kind of the questions that you're asking. So if you're analyzing sales calls, you'll see that they're asking the same questions over and over. Some of them are getting the prospects to talk more than others.
Right.
So I would analyze, you know, here's 30 sales calls. Which questions seem to be getting the prospects to talk the most? It's an easy prompt.
Understood. Makes sense. And
Yeah.
folks, if you have any questions, you can ask it directly to Blake. Click on the React icon at the center bottom of your screen. You'll have an option called Raise Hand. Do that, turn on your video, and I'll spotlight you guys. You can shoot your questions directly. Again, React, raise hand, turn on your video, and I'll spotlight you. But in the meanwhile, picking one more question for you, Blake. Nitish, you're heading business development for a B2B software agency. Would love to connect with, oh, sorry, that was basically a LinkedIn request. It was not a question. Sorry about that.
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search Blake Johnston Outbound View.
Yeah. But any more questions, folks? If yes, please feel free to raise your hand. I'll spotlight you. You can ask your questions directly to Blake. Any questions? Yes. So, what advice would you give to an SDR team to make work easier for the sales team in the first call?
Yep. So we see a lot of things. How you end first calls, if you're cold calling, matters a lot. So we talk about things like excitement statements. An excitement statement to us is a reason at the end of the call that the prospect will go, and it's usually just the offer. So, ending first calls to sound different of like, hey, I promise you're going to get a lot out of this first call. We're going to cover X, Y, and Z, insert offer. So that's a good way to end calls. Um, just to make sure that the prospects are excited and ready, and then, that kind of pre-call education stuff. A lot of companies aren't sophisticated enough to do the marketing automation and all of that. That can be driven by SDRs. It's not ideal though. You don't want like salespeople reaching out 5 times before a call. So that's probably the best.
Understood. And Moise has a question. There you go, sir.
Hey Blake, how's it going, man?
Doing good.
Yeah, so just have I know it's a pretty simple but really basic question. I just wanted to ask one really, really quick. In regards to when we open a call, right, we say, hey, name, how's it going? Everything all right? And then apart from that, to build out the report, because typically what people do, they ask, how's the weather like? Where exactly based? Apart from these basic, generic sales type of question, which really doesn't build a lot of rapport, anything specific that you would like to share over here?
I always feel like people love to talk about where they're from, and so asking like basic questions. You should know where they're based if you've, researched them on LinkedIn or those types of things. Um, typically compliments. People love compliments. You can usually grab compliments quite easily off of LinkedIn. Like, oh, it looks like you've been here like a good number of years and have had a ton of roles. Like that's awesome. Like, just getting people talking and showing that you're a little prepared is typically enough. But like, I don't know, it's small things like smiling and waving, and like sometimes you see salespeople jump on calls and I mean, they look crazy, right? They're just too intense. It's just relax and chill and those types of things.
Got it. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Moise. Suki will receive the recording by tomorrow. It should be out on Smartlead's YouTube as well as our Slack community. But folks, if there are no more questions, we'll call it a day. But Blake, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you so much for the science and psychology behind phone calls and calls. But anything else that you'd want to add before we part ways?
No. Well, actually, one thing. Spend more time on your sales process. Like it is not fun. It doesn't sound like a great project, but what you will get out of it is very significant. So just block the time, spend a whole day, right? Like you'll really get some great info. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, folks, for taking the time. Like I always say, 3 consistent things in life: death, taxes, and office hours every Thursday. I'll see you all on the next one. Ciao. Bye-bye.
thanks, everybody.